African and Indian students stuck in Ukraine are accusing officials of discriminating against them and pushing them back from getting to the border. Videos have been posted on social media said to show black people being prevented from boarding a train and left stranded at a railway station in Lviv as Ukrainians were allowed on. Others said they were turned back from the border and were even being shot at. Like this video, Indian students claim Ukrainian guards on the Polish border beat them up and didn't allow them to cross. Tens of thousands of international students have been stuck in Ukraine since the war started.
Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket of Europe in terms of we talked about urging all the European countries and everyone else to end trade restrictions on sending limitations on sending food abroad. And so we are in the process of working out with our European friends what it would take to help alleviate the concerns relative to food shortages.
There is another humanitarian crisis coming this fall, and it has already begun. Russia and Ukraine together typically export more than 25% of the world's wheat. Russia is also a key exporter of fertilizers, and sanctions have caused their prices to spike, potentially endangering upcoming crops. Some experts are warning of a global food shortage and sounding the alarm about a possible increase in world hunger.
And ye shall hear of wars, and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. I believe that it is evident that we are living in the times spoken of in Matthew 24. But though that may be clear to us, I believe that there are components of this message that we have overlooked. And these messages are critical to our success or failure in the closing act of the drama. As we look closely to the message of Matthew 24, there are key components that we may have overlooked. These being 1, we are not to be troubled, and 2, the end is not yet. The word trouble translates to wail, to clamor, or to be frightened. Whereas the word end means the point aimed at as a limit or the conclusion of an act. We can deduce from the reading that the author is instructing his readers, who will be facing this time in history, that they are not to clamor or not to be afraid. Why? For these events are not the conclusion of the act. They are just the beginning of sorrows. It may seem strange that the author is saying to the readers that they are not to be afraid in the face of all these calamities. A question should be asked. Why? 1 John reads as follows: There is no fear in love, but perfect love cast out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. It is evident that Matthew's goal is not only to highlight end-time events, but to also bring awareness to all those who will be living during the time of these events, that their main goal or main aim during these times and before the conclusion of the act or before the limit is reached is to be made perfect. Centuries before Matthew wrote, the prophet Isaiah, under inspiration, would have written the following concerning this event. The book of Isaiah reads as follows: With my soul have I desired thee in the night, yea, with my spirit within me will I seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. For the astute Bible student, one may think this verse presents a conundrum, for God's judgments are generally termed his 7 last plagues, and in the 7 last plagues, his righteousness has already been imputed to those who would accept. So how could righteousness be learnt during the 7 last plagues? This presents a conundrum. But it is the prophet Ezekiel that sheds greater light into Isaiah's vision. Ezekiel reads as follows: For thus saith the Lord God, how much more when I send my 4 sore judgments upon Jerusalem, the sword, and the famine, and the noisome beast, and the pestilence, to cut off from it man and beast. From our study, we can deduce that Matthew 24 and Ezekiel 14 run congruent to each other. They agree. And if they agree, then Isaiah 26 verse 9 makes a lot of sense. For when wars, famines, and pestilence and earthquakes are in the land, Isaiah says that it is imperative that the inhabitants of the world learn righteousness. We can conclude that at this present time, our greatest work is to learn of righteousness, which seems to correlate with being made perfect. Why is it that righteousness is so important that we must learn it before the conclusion of the act or before the end? How do we learn of righteousness? And what relation does righteousness have with being made perfect? All these would be answered in a series coming to you soon.